All right. You know what it is. You know who it is. We're back. Brandon Gallagher here with another video. And today we're talking about the top 5 reasons why your programming is insufficient. Let's check it out. Reason number 1, there's no main focus. You don't have a goal. You're just kind of going into the gym, doing whatever you see that's open or doing whatever you feel like doing. The best programs or the best results that you get come from the best goals that are set or the best timeline that's placed. And that's where programming starts to become great and why you need to be experienced and good at programming to make a good program. If you don't have a focus, oftentimes people just go in, they're like, oh, that machine's open, I'm gonna do this, or I did bench 3 days in a row and it's open, I'm just gonna do, bench again. So we gotta put ourselves in a position where we know what the outcome of the day is that we're looking for, what's the stimulus, how long we're gonna be there, and then we get in and get out, and that's it. Number 2, no structure. So just kind of doing whatever exercise, whenever you want or whenever it's open. I know sometimes with other big box gyms or where there's a lot of people, sometimes you don't get the exact order of the exercises that you're looking for. But for the most part, we want to have an idea of this is the first exercise that I'm doing. These 2 are going to complement that first one. The next ones are going to complement those plus the first one. And it just goes in a chronological order of most skilled to least skilled, and basically the hardest movements to the easiest movements to help ourselves. Because as we get tired, mentally we're not going to be fully aware, and we're not going to be giving the highest quality movement as we continue throughout the workout. So create structure and have a focus. Number 3, too many movements. I see people go into the gym and they do 10 to 15 different movements within a session, and they're there for like 2 or 3 hours, right? I know some people have the time and some people need the time within sets and things like that. And if that's kind of part of your goal, then that's great, but don't do too much. Keep yourself to an hour, all right? Try to keep yourself within that hour to 90-minute range and be specific with what you're trying to get in there. If you're doing more than like 6 movements, really, including the accessories, and I wouldn't count conditioning as like a movement, but if you're doing that as well, that's pushing the limits, right? We want anywhere from 4 to 6 movements, specific with the reps and sets, getting in, getting out, and getting the intended stimulus, which goes back to obviously that main goal. Number 4, not enough stimulus, right? So might be doing too much, but we might not be doing enough. If you're just going into the gym and you're doing like a little bit of a warm up, 5 minutes on the treadmill, a couple sets of 10 on the dumbbells or some machines, and you're walking out, you're not going to get the stimulus that you think you're going to get, and it's going to stop you, and your program's not going to be enough. So either whenever you see you're not getting results or you're just not feeling like you're getting results, this is going to be the reason. It's just not doing enough volume, not doing enough variation, not doing enough heavy loads or specific programming in which you're getting something out of these workouts. So as often as you can do too much, you can also do too little, and it's this sweet spot in between where you're not doing these intense workouts with 10 plus movements, but you're also not doing like 1 movement when you go into the gym. So find a sweet spot where you're getting in between these 2, and you're going to find results, and your programming will be significantly better. And number 5, too much variation. So I see this a lot with people, and this is one of the reasons why CrossFit got big when it did, is because of the variation. There's a lot that goes into a workout, and sometimes with these movements, people can't complete these movements to the highest degree, or they don't understand these movements, or their body just neurologically isn't ready. So weeks of repeated effort at this movement is what's necessary to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. So oftentimes people will get bored, or they just want to see a different movement, and that's okay, right? You can change this, but you got to have that same stimulus in mind as you go. So there's different ways of variation that we can do, like speed work or bands and chains, or different methods of it, tempos, different little variations, but without changing week to week the entire workout. Because I see too many people who are like, oh, I'm gonna do back squat, lunges, and this week 1, and then week 2 it's like, now I'm gonna do deadlifts and 3 other completely different movements. You don't give yourself enough time to actually understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and you don't give yourself enough time to actually learn the movement and express it to its fullest before moving on. So make sure not to move on too fast. Make sure that the variation is, there in other ways, but not specifically changing the movements as you go. One thing is, how do we improve this, right? How do we improve these 5 main topics that go along with programming, and what are the ways that we can do that. So one easiest way, find a coach, right? Like myself or any of the awesome people that I work with at the gym. Find someone who can teach you and kind of help you with this and guide you along that process. Number 2, figure out the goal. All of this stuff starts to change when you figure out what your main goal is, and that's why I put it number 1, right? So if you know what it is that you're trying to accomplish, you'll have the structure, you'll find how many movements you need to do, you'll make sure you're doing more than enough and not too little, and you won't really have to change the variation unless it's something that requires variation, like, you know, CrossFit or something like that. And number 3, develop a plan. So understand what you want to do in the gym, how long you want to be there, when you want to leave, what the workouts are going to look like, how many days per week, you know, the rest of your schedule throughout your life, and how you can fit this in to make sure it works on a weekly basis to make sure you're getting where you need to be. And the last thing I wrote, programming to me is kind of like, it's art, right? Music, artists, any of this other stuff that you consider art. I consider programming an art because there's pieces that go along with this, and you're putting these little things together and they make this bigger picture. So when I look at somebody or someone walks into the door and they say, oh, I have knee pain, or I want to get, you know, I want to powerlift, do a powerlifting competition, or I have a fight in 8 weeks. I look at the bigger picture, and then you draw from this, what's the main focus, right? What's the structure going to look like? What's doing too much? What's not doing enough? And how much variation does this person actually need? And all these questions start to get answered. But you got to look at this as a point of, what are the pieces? How do I put them together? How do I make this bigger picture? And how do I create adaptation and growth in the most efficient way possible? So I hope this answered some questions for you guys. These are my top 5 reasons why your programming is insufficient. If you guys have any other questions, obviously reach out. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.